Welcome to another gathering of the Gold Key Adventurers Society. Have a seat by the fire as we prepare to help you unlock the secrets of the travel life. From theme park thrills to Purple Mountain's majesty, we want to see it all and do it all, and we want to help you do the same. We all have those bucket list trips, once-in-a-lifetime destinations that we'll get to someday. We're here to help you make your travel dreams a reality. Buy the ticket, take the trip. Where do you want to go?
Come on, now tell me what's on your bucket list. Okay, hey, it's a beautiful day. Okay, hey, it's a beautiful day.
All aboard! We're back to tell you why you should let Disney help you explore the world with Adventures by Disney. But first, the news. Now, with 100% fewer mummified toes. Pack your steamer trunk and meet me in the dining car. It's time to ride the rails with the Gold Key Adventurers Society. You've just boarded my hot air balloon. Let go of the ropes holding us to the ground, and we're up and away. I raise my voice to be heard over the burners and say, this balloon is just the ticket to help me travel around the world in precisely 80 days. But it sure makes it difficult to keep up with the latest travel news. You'll have to fill me in. But first I have to know, you're going on a guided tour around Europe. What celebrity would make the best tour guide? And who would you absolutely not want to see leading your expedition?
I would not want Russell Brand to lead my expedition.
Agreed.
Any specific reason?
Well, I don't think we'd ever get there. And he would be so annoying the whole time while we were trying to.
I would not want to go on a guided tour with Matthew McConaughey.
All right.
Yeah. I would punch him in the throat by the end of the first hour.
How many people could fit in that Lincoln anyway? As you can see, we're cruising down the road in a Lincoln.
What celebrity would I want to lead me on a guided tour?
For our next activity, we're going to stare out of the abyss.
I'd love to go on a tour guided by the guy from the B-52s. Because can you imagine visiting all these historical sites and that voice is telling you all the important information?
This is the Grand Canyon!
Get in my car. It's as big as a whale and it's about to set sail.
This is where the witches were burned in Salem!
Yeah,
Anything fun. I'm going to go with that.
Exactly.
I can't top that. I cannot top that.
I was going to say Christopher Walken because, he could make anything sound interesting, even if he didn't know what he was talking about. But
yep. Mm-hmm.
I don't do a Walken impersonation, so
Come
that's
on.
not. I don't have one.
Throw that out there, and you don't have
to
one.
Normandy.
There we go.
That's where the jet fighters came in.
Let's see. Gosh. How about Idris Elba?
You just want that because he's hot.
Other reason.
Yeah. I just think he would be really interesting.
Yes, he would. And he would cancel the apocalypse.
Yes. Thank you.
I don't know who I would want to. Somebody hot, probably.
That's so distracting.
Then it doesn't matter what you're seeing.
It's okay. It doesn't matter if you're at Flo's V8 Cafe.
Oh.
Yes, it does.
There it is.
It always matters.
No, don't go to Flo's.
Do you have a do not tour with, Dan?
Yeah, I think Bugs Bunny, just because he can never remember which way to turn at Albuquerque. so I don't think I can trust him to not get me lost.
Mm-hmm. You'd end up on Mars with the space modulator.
Well, let's do this news thing. Jess, have you even?
What question was that? I'm not sure I know how to answer. I have news.
Did you give us an answer?
You didn't give us a I will not tour with celebrity.
Well, I said I would with Christopher Walken. But
yep.
Right.
I don't know who I wouldn't. There's a lot of people I wouldn't. I'm going to go with my mother-in-law. That's my final answer. She doesn't listen to the show. It's okay.
Yeah, she better not.
I don't think she knows my name, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, everybody knows your name, Jason.
Yeah, Jason, give us some theme park news.
All right, from the desk of Jason. It's a Small World at Disneyland has added 3 new scents to their holiday overlay for this year. Starting November. Scents, as in smells. Yeah. So starting November 8th, they will start their holiday overlay for It's a Small World, as well as holiday overlays, all of their holiday celebrations, technically. And this year, they're debuting 3 new scents for the ride. So the Asia section will have a cherry blossom scent. The South America section will have a cinnamon scent, and the South Seas area a coconut scent.
Cool.
So
is this in addition?
Minor,
is
but
this in addition to the fart I always walk through in line?
Those have to be both by yourself. Yeah, that's your own special holiday cheer that you spread.
Okay, that sounds cool. Is that at both Small Worlds? I didn't catch the beginning.
Nope, that's just for the Disneyland overlay that they do.
Did they have scents in there already? You said they're adding for the.
You know, I have ridden it during the holidays, and I don't really remember smelling anything.
I think this is new. I don't remember them ever having scents in there.
Chlorinated water.
To be honest, I'm all for anywhere that they can add smellitzers into the park. I think that
Smell-o-vision.
Yeah, they don't take advantage of that as much as they could.
So yeah,
I like it too. Except for the ones I mentioned before.
Right. the Jeff trademarked smells.
Heather, you got anything?
Well, this one is a little bit of a PSA. We're coming up on a really busy travel season, and we've talked a little bit before about what you should not try to take through in your carry-on luggage. I came across this on CNN this week that the TSA stopped a traveler and were prepared to do a thorough search until they realized that what they saw in his carry-on bag was not a gun, but a toilet paper holder shaped like a revolver.
I saw that.
Yeah, I saw this.
Did you see this?
Travel toilet paper holder shaped like a revolver?
I mean,
it was a realistic replica gun that is intended to mount onto the wall in your home and be a toilet paper holder. It wasn't even a travel one. It was just some novelty that he found and picked up and thought would be cool and didn't think it would be a problem. Put it in his bag. But the TSA does not permit travelers to bring real or replica firearms through a checkpoint. So he had to return the item to his vehicle or put it in a checked bag or surrender it to the TSA. So just a reminder to all of our listeners, don't try to carry on any replica guns or other weapon, even if it's actually a paper towel holder.
Lightsabers are okay because they're a replica of a thing that isn't real.
Yes, lightsabers are fine.
I'm sure everybody felt much safer knowing that toilet paper holder was not on.
Yeah, and there is a picture of it in this article, and I do have to say it really does look like a revolver. Mm-hmm. And when you look closer at it, you see where the toilet paper roll is supposed to go, but
it has a weird smell.
I think we've hit on a theme for this week's episode.
I think they have.
Some have said that's the same theme for all our episodes.
Oh,
ouch!
Tough crowd.
So that now resides in the TSA bathroom. Is that basically?
That's correct.
Yeah,
yes,
I'm sure
that's what happened to that.
Yeah, that didn't get destroyed. I'm sure they kept.
Oh, absolutely. You know they did.
So back to theme parks. We just finished up the Halloween season, and right on the heels of that, Universal Orlando Resort has announced the dates for the 30th anniversary Halloween Horror Nights in 2020. It's going to.
Oh, they're going to do that again?
Yeah, I know. Surprising, right? Not many people go to it. I'm surprised that they had enough turnout to actually have another year, but hey, good for them. In all seriousness, so it's going to be 39 select nights from Thursday, September 10th to Saturday, October 31st in 2020. And it'll feature 10 brand new haunted houses, 5 bone-chilling scare zones, and live entertainment, and more. Yeah, so I didn't get a chance to make it down for this year. I think I'm going to make a point to be there next year, hopefully in September.
You got to check it out, Jess. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I did it 2 years ago, but I just didn't get a chance to go down this year, and I regretted it. So
I'm excited to see what new houses they might come up with for next year.
yeah, the past 2 years have had an 80s slant, so
Which I love.
I'm all for that. That was the best time for horror movies, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm curious if they're going to stick with the decade theme or if they're just going to try something new. We'll see.
They'll move into the 90s.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of the 90s. Like a Scream house would be cool, but
I was just thinking that, yeah.
The Grudge.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. The Ring.
Oh, yeah. I know what you did last.
All the PG-13 movies that came out. The Gorton's Fisherman Killer movie. I know what you ate last summer.
That one was my favorite.
All right, I'm going to take us on over to this week's installment of our my favorite segment. Let's visit the world of interesting vacation rental properties. I think I'm going to go with the slightly dark one first, and then we'll have fun to kind of chase it up. So, a former Nazi air raid bunker in Hamburg, Germany, was going to open to the public in 2021 as a 136-room hotel complete with bar, cafe, and rooftop garden. It already has, it's a really interesting looking building. It kind of looks like a great big castle with trees and shrubs and stuff growing on the roof. It's already got the rooftops garden. It's bizarre, actually. It's floating forest. So it's a World War II era structure built in 1942, and 25,000 people sheltered there during air raids on Hamburg in 1943. They had originally planned to tear the bunker down, but its walls are 11 and a half feet thick. Wow. So they couldn't blow it up because it would have destroyed all the surrounding buildings in the town. So it's just sat there ever since. And so now they're turning it into a great big hotel. It's not the only Third Reich building that has been repurposed into tourist destinations. There, in 2017, Hitler's Strength Through Joy holiday complex, which some people call a Nazi resort, it was developed into luxury apartments. So apparently they're kind of trying to repurpose these old structures.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think I'm.
You did say that it was dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I hear they're really strict with their check-in and out policies. I don't want to.
Oh.
All right. Well, let's take it right on to something a little bit more fun. You can now rent Harry Potter's childhood home for the night on Airbnb.
I saw this one. Godric's Hollow.
Yes. The cottage that was used to represent Lily and James Potter's house in Godric's Hollow in the movies is now available to stay the night through Airbnb. The inside is whimsically decorated, fitting a wizarding house. It has 2 bedrooms with 4-poster beds, ensuite bathrooms, a private guest sitting room with log fire, and you enjoy a full English breakfast in the morning. It is available for $142 per night on Airbnb.
Not bad at all. It looks super cute.
Yeah, I mean it's totally Harry Potter, and is the whole village. It's the village that they used for Godric's Hollow, so the whole place is these old historic houses, and everything's kind of a little crooked and.
The article says that it's right up the Harry Potter franchise alley because it has a rich history of ghost stories, including an earl's son and a soldier who died in the 30 Years' War. Perfect. Haunted Harry Potter's home. Cool.
Even
I like
better.
It. Talking paintings.
Moaning
that would be
in the
great.
bathroom.
Yes. Hopefully.
That was my nickname in high school. So, Dan, you just reminded me, I was browsing for oddball hotels and different things and came across something that actually made me think of you. It's where is this? It's just outside of Amsterdam, and it is a harbor crane that the big cab in it you can rent as a room, and it's actually nice. It's got a hot tub and everything and all this.
Oh, wow. In the crane?
They've rigged. Yeah, it's apparently a very big crane. One of those harbor cranes is mounted to the dock. It's out on there, and they've got it working again. But it's very nice inside, and you can actually, if the sun gets in your eyes or you want to face the sunset or whatever, you can still turn
the
it around. Yeah,
that sounds
perfect.
cool.
So you can't move the arm or any of that stuff, but you can still turn it, and the whole thing will turn. And they replaced the stairs that used to go, or the ladder that used to go up through the little cage thing to get into it is now a lift, a one person at a time lift.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. The
That sounds cool.
Veralda Crane Hotel in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And it's one of those great big tower cranes. That is so cool.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah, booking a trip to Amsterdam.
But would you want to spend the night in the crane after working in one all day long?
Well, if it's got heat, then I'm already.
Yeah, and a hot tub.
Yeah.
It looks pretty luxe, and it has a little outdoor patio thing on it. And
Oh, very cool.
but it was kind of pricey. It looked like it was 319 euros or something like that. But that included dinner and breakfast.
I don't know what the exchange rate is, so I'll just say it sounds good.
Euro right now it's around like $1.13. Not too bad.
All right.
I saw one in Travel and Leisure magazine. It's a New York City hotel suite that is filled with FAO Schwarz toys, including the dance-on piano.
Oh, the big piano.
From Big, yes. It's at the Conrad New York Midtown, and they've teamed up for a one-of-a-kind suite in the hotel that is, and the pictures of it is wall-to-wall packed with all of the giant stuffed animals that FAO Schwarz is famous for, and the dance-on piano, and a lot of the things that were made famous and Big. It's currently going to be available for booking starting November 18th until January 5th, and it's huge. It's a 1,800 square foot suite. And according to the article, the toys include a gourmet kitchen, multiple train set, the piano, working DJ turntables, hobby horses, 8 to 10 foot stuffed animals, vintage Barbie dolls, and enough musical instruments to form your own band.
So this isn't for kids. This is...
I would really hate to have the room next door to this.
Yes, right?
This is for adults. They're not trying to get kids with this, right? Because those are not toys that kids care about these days.
Correct. It does say that the hotel is offering gifts on demand via their in-room toy menu all season long. No mention of how expensive this is going to be to rent, but given the looks of it, I don't think it's going to be one of our affordable Airbnb entries. It looks pretty pricey.
No, and probably pretty hard to book, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I would do it though.
Yeah, but it looks super fun.
Is Tom Hanks going to come to your room to do a little heart and soul with you?
A little dance on the piano. That probably costs extra, I'm guessing.
Yeah, generally you have to pay extra for Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
You think?
Tom Hanks not included.
Anybody have anything else on the news?
I had one quick little thing at the end. Mickey Mouse. You guys might have heard of him. I don't know. Possibly.
Mickey the Mouse.
He's coming to Epcot. Can you believe it? It's slightly.
Epcot.
Wait, yes, he is.
Isn't he already
he's
in
actually
Epcot?
going to be moving to a new meet and greet location at Epcot next year. There's a new one that's going to be opening up at the Imagination Pavilion as part of the Dixie. As part of the Disney and Pixar Short Film Festival. If you put them together, it could be Dixie.
There we go.
Yeah.
Dixie Fest?
That was my nickname in high school.
I'm really glad my mother-in-law doesn't listen to the show. So a new meeting area at the Disney and Pixar Short Film Festival. And from the concept art, it looks like you'll be meeting and taking photos with Mickey in a large film strip that sort of shows different images of Mickey throughout the years.
Is that in the old Honey, I Shrunk the Audience building over there? Is that what that?
Yeah, that's where they've got the Disney and Pixar Short Film Festival currently. So yeah, they're adding that in, but no word if any of that attraction is going to change with all the new stuff they're putting in at Epcot. We'll see.
I would consider that temporary, as I would consider everything at Epcot at this point.
Yeah.
All in a state of flux.
It is a bit covered with construction walls right now.
But it's going to be amazing. Amazing!
Just you wait and see.
Well, I have one more piece of news that's another item on the please don't ever do this list. A Royal Caribbean cruise ship passenger has been banned from the cruise line for life over a dangerous photo stunt. This woman climbed off her balcony to stand on a tiny little edge on the other side of her balcony and take a selfie that she, of course, posted on Instagram. And a fellow traveler was out on his balcony and saw her and wasn't sure whether she was planning to jump.
A jumper.
Yeah. So he immediately alerted security and they tracked her down and realized she was just taking selfies, posting them on Instagram. And she and her traveling companion were removed at the next port of call, and she's no longer allowed on the cruise line. So here's another plea for some sanity. Instagram pictures are great and all, but don't do dangerous stuff like climb off the balcony on a cruise ship. Please.
It's weird to me, like, how was that picture improved by being on the other side of a small railing?
She's taken it down from her Instagram account. So the only picture that the article shows is the one taken by the man who saw her. And it's terrifying looking. I mean, it's this ledge she's standing on is maybe 6 inches. I can't believe she didn't slip and fall. It's just crazy. And I can't figure out how you're right. How was her photo improved by standing on this little ledge? It's crazy.
I'm going to have to look that up.
Maybe she was trying to make it look like she was floating out over the ocean. I don't know. It's just crazy.
Well, people keep dying taking selfies, falling into geysers and off cliffs.
They're not looking.
Yeah.
What's going on? One guy was just melted in some hot spring geyser, natural spring thing. He just got melted.
Oh, my word. Really?
He went 30 feet off the trail where it's like, don't go beyond this point. He went right over there, and it was an Old Faithful type of thing, and it went off, and it's hot, boiling acidic water that just melted his body to death.
Oh, my word. Wow.
But the selfie was amazing.
He got so many likes on Instagram.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Don't try that at home, kid.
Or anywhere else.
Do not.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's stop taking these stupid selfies.
I mean, I love a selfie, but I also love not being dangerous.
Or dead.
I love being able to take selfies in the future.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
But
That's
I want to do
This
it
is
now.
how I'm going to go.
selfie accident. Ugh.
Then you're always that guy.
Yeah.
Well, with that uplifting news. Coming up next, we're going to tell you everything you need to know about Adventures by Disney. But first, let's hear a word from our sponsor.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
When it comes to planning your next adventure, knowledge and preparation are always key. That's why a call to your Key to the World Travel Vacation Planner should always be at the top of your to-do list when you feel the urge to venture forth and explore the world. Key to the World Travel is an authorized Disney vacation planner, specializing in travel to Disney theme parks around the world, as well as Disney Cruise Line, Aulani, and Adventures by Disney. With over 450 travel advisors who share a deep love for Disney destinations, Key to the World Travel has a wealth of knowledge and passion to help you experience all the magic with none of the work. Wherever your wanderlust is driving you, Key to the World Travel is a full-service travel agency with the expertise to get you where you want to go. So whether you're headed to Universal Studios, Hawaii, Europe, or somewhere a little farther off the beaten track, your first step should always be to visit www.keytotheworldtravel.com for a no-obligation quote. Their expert travel planners are standing by to help you with every detail of your perfect vacation. That's www.keytotheworldtravel.com or at Key to the World Travel on Facebook. Key to the World Travel, your key to a magical vacation. Our journey around the world has reached its final stages. All that remains is a train journey across the United States. We're sitting in the dining car, enjoying our after-dinner coffee and discussing a marvel of modern travel. So you're telling me that Adventures by Disney gives travelers the service, comfort, and storytelling that Disney parks are famous for, but at destinations all around the world? I wish I'd known about this before I decided to fly halfway around the world in a hot air balloon. Just to make sure I understand, we better start from the beginning. Heather, tell me again about this whole Adventures by Disney thing.
You summed it up pretty well already there, Dan. I'm impressed. Yes. Adventures by Disney, in a nutshell, is basically a guided tour experience for the family and they also have adults only departure. So I don't want to pigeonhole it as just family. But the idea is that you have the excellent Disney service. However, it's not going to be the same experience as being in a theme park. Mickey Mouse is not going to be on your tour with you.
Aw.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind going to Japan with Mickey Mouse, but I guess most people would prefer a more culturally immersive experience. I guess you could say. I think between us, this group here tonight, we've done 5 or 6 different Adventures by Disney itineraries so far.
I've been on 4. 2 of them were very similar.
I've been on 1.
So there is one itinerary that is traditionally Disney focused, and that's their Backstage Magic tour. That
They don't call it that anymore.
that is true. I always call it Backstage Magic, and now they've changed the name of it. You can cut all this stuff out, right?
Yeah, totally.
Good.
Sure.
It's just called the Disneyland Resort in Southern California Escape. Do you want me to just start that part over?
Yeah, you start wherever you want, and I'll do a little puzzle action and figure out how to make it work.
So they do have 2 departures that are a little bit more traditionally Disney focused. So that's the Disneyland Resort in Southern California trip. And then they have a short escape version of that is similarly titled the Disneyland Resort in Southern California Short Escape, creatively titled.
Which one's longer?
The Disneyland Resort in Southern California trip, which Jeff and I both, that was the very first Adventures by Disney trip that we took.
That's right. And it was amazing.
That one is one of my favorites that I've done so far. You spend 3 days in Hollywood and then move down to Disneyland. And it's kind of like seeing where it all began, right? You're staying right down in the heart of Hollywood in the hotel right next to where they film the Oscars every year.
It's the Lowe's Hollywood Hotel.
And you get to tour backstage at the Oscars and see that theater. And
Yeah, the Dolby Theater tour included, when we were there, they had it set up as if the Oscars had just happened. So they had the little cutouts of where the celebrities had sat. So you could go see where everybody was seated and you could get your picture taken in the seats next to the fake celebrities. That was kind of funny. But it was neat to see the theater itself and realize that that's just in a mall. That's a normal theater where they show movies and have other things, but it's in a mall. So when you're at seeing the Oscars and the red carpet and all that, they're just walking past Sunglass Hut, literally, to go up those stairs.
cool.
And they screen it off. So that they put curtains up and you think it's all this fancy stuff, but they're literally at Banana Republic.
And they show you how they shut down that entire street. So they put down a red carpet that where you see them arriving on the red carpet is the street. And they just carpet the entire street and cordon it off and
put bleachers up.
The arrivals where you see them coming in, all the stars coming in their limos, they're actually getting in those limos around the corner and just driving around the corner, getting dropped off to do the...
So that Lowe's hotel that we stayed in is connected to the Dolby Theater. There's a walkway between the two. So when they leave, the backstage area is actually a ballroom in that hotel. And all the people have rooms and suites in the hotel to get ready in. And they go downstairs, get in a limo, and literally go around the corner to in front of the same hotel where they've arrived. Oh, look who's here. We had no idea. And then the whole thing is just like Hollywood. It's all
You're killing the magic.
But it's really cool to see it. You know, you could be staying in a room that an Oscar winner stayed in and got ready.
And now I'm the insufferable guy that when we watch with the family now, like, hey, that's a Banana Republic. Like, yeah, we get it. No one cares.
That's really a Spencer's Gifts.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I got some fake dog poop, and here's Owen Wilson.
Same difference.
My favorite part of the beginning of this, which I still call it the Backstage Magic trip, because it really is. We going to the Jim Henson Studios, which is not something that just anybody can do. You have to do this with Adventures by Disney if you want to go and see inside that, it's still a working studio, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got to do, they asked if anybody would volunteer to do a test on how they film the Muppets. And I, of course, quickly raised my hand and got up there and then regretted my decision because it's really difficult. So you do it for the screen. So everything you do is you're used to performing in a mirror. So if you want to turn left and look left, it's what you think is backwards, but it's really
Not
the right way or something.
Yeah.
So I could not do this. It's so embarrassing. And there's 30 people standing there watching me.
and I think we have photos and video of Jeff trying to work the Muppet.
Oh yeah, and it was not good. It was really cool to get to do it and with a real Muppeteer or whatever they call him. But
Muppet Master.
Muppet dude.
Muppet guy.
But you get to tour the whole thing, and that studio before it was Jim Henson's studio, it was A&M Records.
And wasn't it Charlie Chaplin's studio at one point?
Yeah, Charlie
as
Chaplin's
well?
studio. So there's remnants from all of that stuff there, leftovers. The record vault, where it was A&M's vault, is still there, and Charlie Chaplin's ghost still floats around in there.
It's very cool.
Really cool.
The buildings almost look like what I would imagine a little English countryside village, which is, it's kind of out of place there in the middle of Hollywood, but it was really neat. We also saw, we had our picture taken with Kermit the Frog, and we saw a bunch of the props from the old Dark Crystal.
Oh yeah, and the new version. So they had all the old and new props and puppets out there, and that was special. That was really cool.
That was a while ago that you guys went, and they were already working on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we did this full version was that
2.5 years ago?
2015 or was it 17? Now I can't remember.
It was 2017. It was March or something of 2017.
And then there's always, with this particular departure, they have a lot of flexibility to sort of change up what they do, what you get to do backstage. We got to go to Walt Disney Imagineering, which is another thing you can't just do anywhere. This is kind of an Adventures by Disney exclusive, actually getting to go to WDI, and it kind of varies depending on what they're working on, how much you're going to see. When we were on this particular trip, the first time we did it, the model shop was completely covered with black curtains, and they took us next to it and said, well, we can't let you see what's behind these curtains right now. And it turns out it's because they were working on the models for Galaxy's Edge.
And it was funny. We're all standing there in this not roped off, but this curtained off area you're not to look at or whatever. And literally some dude rounds a corner carrying a mock-up of one of the buildings. And he's like, it was the funniest thing. There, he just froze and then nothing to see.
We're
and then
going
just
back behind the curtain. Sorry.
Yeah, he's like, I'm super fired. Jess went with us on the short escape version that we did more recently and got to see Imagineering too.
Yeah, and it was after Galaxy's Edge had already been announced, so we got to see a sort of more of what they were doing in there.
They had a model of it wasn't Hondo, it was
Doc
Ondar. That's what it was. Yeah.
We did get to see Hondo's the sculpt, the clay sculpt that they did for him. That was pretty cool. Yeah, that trip, the access to the behind the scenes stuff, I mean, for like a super fan like me, it was just amazing. I still can't get over half the things I got to see just in that room full of models and sculptures.
Yes, the sculpture room is just very cool.
Yeah, dating back to the first rides, for the World's Fair and things like that. So that was pretty amazing.
And they have
the faces and busts of all of the presidents from Hall of Presidents are in there.
They have the original marble sculptures of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs that used to be in Disneyland, but now there are replicas that are there because the elements were really eating up the Carrara marble. And they tell you a fun story about that one, that if you look closely at Snow White, you can see that she's been broken in several pieces, because when they were in storage for a certain amount of time after they put the replicas in to Disneyland, and they were bringing them out to put on display at WDI, and the crate was knocked over and she's broken right in half. I think one of her arms fell off and her torso.
She's broken in a couple different spots. Yeah.
Her torso broke completely in half and one or both of her arms came off.
What's crazy about that is they show you this black and white photograph of her broken body on the ground next to the truck. It looks like a crime scene photo. You're like, oh God, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that same day you also got to see the Walt Disney Archives, right?
Yes, they take you. That's part of the Walt Disney Studios tour, which is one of the things you get to do on this this itinerary.
Yeah, the archives, the part you get to go in is a very large room at the front of it that is sort of the display space room. So I've been in it now 3 times, and it was different stuff each time. When we were in there one time, it was a replica of Walt's original office was in there, including a fake Walt standing there. This time they had the redhead pirate from the old one that they took out of Pirates of the Caribbean in both. I don't know from which coast that was, but she was in there. And I've seen the Rocket Man's, what was it? The Rocketeer's helmet. What other kinds of goodies did you see in there? We got to hold one of Walt's Oscars, as one does. That's a super big highlight of that day on the tour of the studios, because it's not very often that you get to hold a real Oscar, much less one that was won by Walt Disney himself. That's so cool. It is one of his sort of lesser Oscars, if that can be a thing. It's for one of his nature documentaries. So that's the one they keep it in there, and they clean it up after each use. But they do let you handle it and without gloves on, and they take your photo, so you're in front of the archive sign holding an Oscar. It as goofy as it sounds, it's very emotional to get to stand there and do that.
This particular trip, I think, is a quintessential trip for any super Disney fan. If you love Disney and are a huge fan, this is a trip that needs to be on your bucket list for sure. And it's kind of a great place to start with Adventures by Disney, because it's in the United States. It's not one of their overseas trips, so it gives you a taste of the service and the little surprises, and it was just a ton of fun every day. And then once you do all of the exclusive things in Hollywood, then they move you down to Disneyland.
Oh, that's where you get to eat at Flo's.
Yes.
If you're lucky. And everything else is closed.
As we know, that was Dave's favorite part of this trip.
I think that was everybody's
Sometimes
favorite.
things are being refurbished, so
on the longer escape one, the dinner is at Carthay Circle, which is one of the more gourmet restaurants there at California Adventure. But on the short escape version, they were, at least I think this year, doing Flo's V8, and we have heard they're revamping that, so it won't be that anymore. But the level of service that you get on these things really starts from the second you get there. So the one that we did where we flew into LA, you fly into LAX, they picked us up from there, and there's a guy, like each person that arrives or group or however I flew in solo. So there was a guy with your name on a sign that took you right there. And while you're in the limo, the Adventures by Disney people call to make sure they've got you and welcome. Okay, bring him right to the thing. And as soon as you get out of the car service and into the hotel, they're standing there waiting for you with a little sign and a welcome and sign this, and here's your room. Everything's just taken care of. Your room's automatically ready and everything's just done for you. It's for someone like me that is a little intimidated to rent a car and show up somewhere. That's a great perk of it, is just not having to think about how am I getting wherever I'm going. It's all taken care of.
Transferring your luggage between hotels for you.
Yeah.
And every trip
from hotel to hotel or city to city or whatever you're doing, they handle it.
And every trip always has 2 adventure guides. Even the ones in the United States, you have at least 2 adventure guides.
And what I loved about that was
incredible.
I loved about that was that they gave us their phone numbers right when I checked in. And so, and it was like, if you need anything at any time, even when they're not with you, guiding a tour for you, they were serious about it. It wasn't just here's my phone number, please do not call this later. It was like, my flight got delayed by a day and they kept checking with me. So the trip was technically over for them, and they still kept sending me texts to check on me on my extra day that I ended up having to stay, just to make sure that I was comfortable. So it's, they really go above and beyond. It's like they pick the best, cast members to do these things.
And even on the trips that are not on their own, this is the Disneyland Resort in Southern California trip is their own property, right? They own all of it. It's their
For the
yeah,
most
it's their
part.
stomping ground. Even on the trips that are not, Disney gets access that other tour companies just don't get. It's
Yep.
the only tour company that you can be in the Sistine Chapel by yourself with just your group. And this one
And
is
you're allowed to photograph, actually,
yeah,
too.
this one, the Italy itinerary is really on my bucket list because I've seen the photos and you're in the Vatican just with your group. When you're going to
Yeah.
the Sistine Chapel, there is a Swiss guard in front of your group and a Swiss guard behind your group. And the one in front is unlocking things and leading your group in. And then the one in the back is shutting the door and locking it. And there's nobody else in there with you.
And he's got a knife with so many different kinds of blades. It's unbelievable.
It's so handy. But there's just no other way that you can't pay enough money to get that kind of access
No.
to the Vatican, which is just incredible. And if you see the photos, you look at a photo of your friend who went to the Sistine Chapel on their own, and there's just like 19 million other people in the room with you. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
you see a
The
photo.
Tower of London.
Oh, yeah.
We pulled up in a bus right up front where it said no buses. They pull right up there because they paid the right people. Got out. Everybody already had their ticket. We walked right past all of the lines and all of the other tour groups from, whatever kind. There's lots of different tour groups, Globus and all these other people. Went just right past them, right in.
Like a celebrity.
Yeah, they're all
That's my
wondering why why they didn't book with.
Why didn't our dad pay for a better trip?
So let's back it up for a second and tell me a little bit more about the role of the adventure guides in your trip, because they're more than just like chaperones or shepherds for you.
They're almost like a traveling concierge. So they just do all of the things. In fact, Heather mentioned one of the trips that we were on. I was at Disney California Adventure Park and I started coughing. And she was about to go ask the guy if there was some way, if we could stop long enough to get water. But the other guide had already noticed that I had a dry cough and stopped and got everybody waters. Just like, oh, it's time to
Yep. Time to
for
hydrate.
everyone to
Yeah.
drink. So they see a need, they anticipate it, and they take care of it before you even know you need it.
And then when you're in a foreign country, one of your adventure guides is always a local. So whether it's the trip that we did to England and France, we had two guides. Your two guides will always speak English. And then
Sort of.
you're joined at every stop by a local guide who knows the history and the culture and wherever it is you're visiting. So if you're going to Windsor Castle, the guide is going to know all of the history of Windsor and what happens there today and what happened there,
Yeah.
who built it. And
They're the people you wear the little earpiece and they tell you all the things about what you're looking at. And so you're not just wandering around having to read the one sign. They're telling you all the interesting stories and history. And although at one point he was talking about Posh Spice had stood where we were at the Windsor Castle Chapel, and Heather realized she's standing on top of the grave of Henry VIII. I was like, okay, maybe this under my feet would have been a little more
we were
important.
in the chapel, and this was like the thing that I always wanted to see, why I wanted to go to Windsor Castle. And I knew it was in there, but I didn't quite know where it was in there. I knew he was buried somewhere under the floor. And he was talking about, where Posh Spice sat at Meghan and Harry's wedding. And thank goodness, I happened to look down and I see that I'm standing on it's just a plaque on the floor that tells you he's buried underneath this floor tile. And I'm like, wow, why are you talking about Meghan Markle's wedding?
Because it had just happened when we were there. It had
You're a
happened.
bunch of Americans.
Yeah.
That's all you care about.
That's
is
true.
the
And
royal
honestly,
wedding.
probably the rest of the group, that's what they wanted to see. But luckily, I looked down and saw it. And you're not supposed to take photos in there. Somebody's iPhone may have accidentally
as far
taken a
as
photo of the floor. I can neither confirm nor deny that.
And the local guides, because you don't need a quote local guide when you're at Disneyland in the park, they had the what they call the plaids that are their VIP tour guides. They had multiples of those that would join us and facilitate everything we did. So not only were you front of the line writing things, but they would take you in a back door So like for Soren, we went and behind the screen and watched how the whole mechanics of the thing worked while one group of us rode the ride. And then the other group got to ride while the previous group went behind the screen and got to see how it all worked. While you're doing one thing, someone else is planning the next thing you're doing, which is pretty cool. And they do that. So there's some changes, like they couldn't accommodate us right here for that. So they take us on something else.
Yeah, when we were in London, we boarded the bus and we were on our way to Westminster Abbey. Is that where we were headed that morning?
Yeah.
And we noticed there was a little bit of a delay and something had happened there.
There was a lot of moving about.
Yeah. And the guides got on the intercom to let us know they'd had to make a little bit of a change and we were going to Buckingham Palace instead. And it turns out that morning it was the day that some guy drove his car into Parliament. This was last summer.
Yeah, he just drove into the barricades as a protest.
At the time,
turned out to be no big deal.
At the time, they weren't sure whether this was some kind of terrorist attack or exactly what was going on. So the entire area around Westminster Abbey and Parliament and Big Ben and all that was shut down. But they reacted very quickly. They knew they were on top of it and switched up our itinerary, and it was pretty seamless. I mean, we had maybe a 5 or 10 minute delay on the bus.
Yeah.
And they moved all those pieces
like as if Buckingham Palace is a bad runner.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
The one that Jess was on with us, we had a little bit of a change up too, because 5 of us got stuck on the Indiana Jones ride for like an hour.
Yes.
So the whole group went ahead and did some other thing while we were just sitting there watching Indy move back.
I still don't even know what the rest of the group got to go and do while we were trapped on that ride.
Yeah, I'm not sure. They had a potty break and something else, but we were supposed to go to see the not Club 33, but the other club there.
1901.
Yeah, the 1901 club. And they skipped that because we were all stuck on a ride. But if anybody knows anything about the Indy ride and the dinosaur ride, that won't surprise you.
So one of the big selling points for Adventures by Disney, right, is they leverage Disney's expertise in storytelling. And you kind of talked about the exclusive access that you get to things. Or, for example, I know in the England one, you don't have someone just blathering to you about history. You go spend a day where they teach you about, well, this is why England was renowned as archers. And you don't just learn that we were good at shooting bows and arrows. You go and you learn how to shoot a longbow, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jeff was not looking forward to that piece of the itinerary. And then... Turns out.
I will tell you, all of the things I was not looking forward to on that particular itinerary wound up being some of my favorite things. And they're things that I know they're geared towards families. So I was like, that's for kids. I don't want to go shoot bow and arrows. But it wound up just being the greatest day. You're at this beautiful English manor. It's so great. And the guy that taught it was like dressed like Robin Hood. I was like, give me a break. But then he was so interesting and the whole thing was great. And he's using these giant longbows and teaching you the history of the longbows and why they used them and the different kinds of bows. And then we all got to shoot them. And then they had a contest and Heather won. And I wanted to kill her.
It turns out I'm really good at medieval archery.
Very good at archery.
Jeff, why is Heather always better at shooting things than you are?
Yeah, I'm not good. She can't drive a Millennium Falcon, but she can shoot an arrow.
That's true. Yeah, and the guide there that taught us the archery was just fascinating guy. And he had the greatest backstory.
Greatest love story.
Yes. Do you remember the story?
No, I missed it because I was pooping.
That's right.
You always miss those things when you're pooping.
I literally was. I came back and everybody's crying and talking about this guy's
and you're like, could you smell
wonderful
that?
love story. But they had been in a plane crash or a ferry crash in the English Channel or something.
He, I think it was somewhere in Indonesia, maybe. He and his now wife met because they were on a ferry that went down, and they were the only 2 people who survived. Mm-hmm. I mean,
while they were out there for a long time, trying not to get eaten by a shark, they decided if we make it back, we're going to get married, and they did.
And quit their jobs and just travel and live. And yeah, it was just heart-wrenching that the ferry held like hundreds of people, and it went down, and they somehow survived and came back home, quit their jobs, and he was always interested in archery. So that's what they do. They travel the world, and several months out of the year, they come back and they teach archery, and then they spend the rest of their time traveling. And it was stuff like that. Like, he didn't have to tell us that sort of thing. It was
just woven into everything he was talking about. It was really just the art of storytelling going on the whole time while you're doing a cool activity.
And every stop we had some kind of cool activity that some of them, like Jeff said, we thought were going to be cheesy. Like in Windsor, we did a scone making class.
Oh, and I didn't want to do that either. I'm like, can't we just walk and look at the shops? And then I loved that too. It's just because it's the characters and these people that they have are great local flavor that they're showing you what's their life's passion, and they make it entertaining. And it is fun for kids. We went to the chocolate museum and factory in Paris and got to learn to make chocolate and make things out of chocolate and eat chocolate. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? Things. That one I was looking forward to.
Yeah. And we went to Versailles and rode bicycles around the grounds, and Jeff wasn't looking forward to that one either. And it was so much fun. It was just, we got lucky. It was a beautiful, beautiful day. And Fern, one of our guides, was talking about the trip right before ours, how they did that same activity, but it was like 30 degrees colder and raining. And she's like, we're just getting pelted in the face by rain, and we were freezing. But we were all having so much fun and laughing, and they were able to turn it into a great activity, even though they didn't have super beautiful weather like we did. It was sunny, biking around the grounds of Versailles. Yeah, it was a pretty cool trip.
So, Jess, other than Flo's V8 Cafe, what was your favorite thing at the Disneyland Short Escape? Or the Hollywood parts that we did too.
The highlight for me for that whole trip was getting to set foot in Walt's apartment over the firehouse in Disneyland.
Yes.
Speaking of access you don't normally get.
Yeah, no, I have wanted to do that for a very, very long time. And that was really the selling point for me on the trip. I was like, oh, cool. I'd love to do something backstage. I had only been out to Disneyland once before, so I wanted to get back out there. But the fact that was included was huge for me. And yeah, it was great. And what was really great about it was that I was going to be completely content with just them walking us through and then walking us back out. Like, I expected that to be it. Like, it was literally going to be like, here it is. All right, now we're moving on. But it wasn't. I feel like we spent like 20, almost 30 minutes in there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And they open up the cabinet so you can see Walt's coffee maker.
And the pink bathroom. That was...
Yeah, they had some gaudy taste, which, that's of the time. I get it. But Walt was a gadget head, as you can imagine. So he had like the coolest, newest toaster for the time and his coffee maker that would make several different, it was funny just to see that, of course, even in his tiny one-room apartment, he had the coolest, newest gadgets, multiple record players.
Oh, yeah. And like an amazing view, that window that they talked about that he would just sort of sit and stare out of. Yeah, that was amazing.
They kept pulling me back from the window. I was just waving out at the common folk down on Main Street because they look up and like, oh, wow. And so,
ooh, somebody gets to go up there. How do you do that?
So I'm waving and they're like, sir, stop.
Don't tease the peons.
But it was, I loved seeing Jess's face when he got to see that for the first time. Jess and our other dear friend, Zach, that are just Walt Disney super fans. Seeing them see that stuff for the first time was amazing.
Yeah, it hit me hard. I was expecting to be pretty moved by it, but it has the room has a feeling. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. All of Disneyland Park has that for me. You can just feel Walt's spirit.
Yeah.
Well, that leads me to the first of two questions that I had to kind of wrap up our discussion of ABD. And so, Heather and Jeff, why don't you do you have like your best memory or best moment from any of the several ABDs you've gone on?
My favorite thing that popped into my head first was the summer before last, I did a trip to Arizona and Utah through Adventures by Disney with my family. And I'll start by saying it wasn't my favorite itinerary. It was chosen by my family. They really wanted to, do all the outdoorsy
Cowboy stuff.
And I swear we climbed on every single red rock.
There's a lot of that.
The United
That's a lot.
States. It is a fantastic, fantastic trip because you see the Grand Canyon and Monument Valley, and it's a lot of things that I really had always wanted to see. But my favorite thing was we ended at this ranch, and
Where they make
my
dressing.
youngest, yes. My youngest really loves animals and loves horses and wanted to go horseback riding. And so it was just the two of us that did this part of the trip. And we did this pretty strenuous horseback ride kind of up and down a mountain. And it was some of the most beautiful scenery I've ever seen. And just the two of us on horses. And he was given kind of a mischievous horse that kept running after the horse in front of it to bite its butt. And so at one point we had to stop and they had to separate the horses and
Don't make me separate you two.
Right. It was just so ridiculous. And so I remember as we're riding a horse over a stream thinking it doesn't get any better than stuff like this, doing something crazy, riding a horse out west with my kid wearing a cowboy hat.
Yeah. My favorite adventure thing that we did was on the London and Paris itinerary. We did a speedboat tour of the Thames.
Oh, that was so epic.
So they start by going up along and you see the London Eye and Big Ben and all that stuff. And the guide is telling you all about it. And there's light music playing. You're like, okay, this is fun. It's not as speedy as you want. But they don't tell you that's sort of the sightseeing no wake zone part of it. And then they cruise back around and show you some more stuff. And then they get out into some more open water and just crank up loud music and they haul some serious booty. And you're just
You go on James Bond
just
on it.
skipping the
And they're
waves.
playing the James Bond theme.
Awesome.
They play all that kind of music and it is so much fun. And everybody's just laughing. It was.
And
I
our
would do that
boat was
again in a heartbeat.
purposely going over the wake of the boat in front of us.
Yeah. So you're getting air on these things jumping away.
It was a little terrifying at points.
But speaking of storytelling, one of my favorite things was on the river cruise that we did on the Rhine River cruise. They had each night one of the adventure guides or the local flavor would take turns having a all about me kind of story hour.
Fireside chat.
Yeah, it was great. And the one that was our guide, Betty, who was the local German guide, told all about herself and what it means to be German in the modern era after dealing with the stuff that Germany and German people have dealt with, from the obvious World War II stuff to the Berlin Wall and all that. And her family was separated by the Berlin Wall. It was very moving and really interesting and something I had not expected to get to experience. And honestly, it was another one of those oh, great, I get to hear about being a German. But it wound up being really one of the most moving and great parts of any of these trips I've ever had, and just pure personal storytelling.
Is there, I was wondering if you guys had a bucket list trip that you've seen with that where Adventures by Disney goes. Mine, I think, would be a tie between Japan and Egypt.
Oh, yeah. I forgot they could eat.
That's new this year.
I would
Yeah.
definitely do Japan. I don't want to go hot, gross places.
Like Thailand or
just
Vietnam.
sweaty. And I'm sure those are awesome, but I'm a fat, sweaty person.
Japan's definitely at the top of my list. Japan and then Scotland too.
Yeah, I like the idea of doing Japan with Adventures by Disney because it's such a foreign place. You know, I don't speak the language. I don't really know much about the culture, and they really, really immerse you in the culture. And yet it's safe because you have a local guide who speaks the language. Yep. Also on that itinerary, you go to a samurai sword factory and you get to do some sword fighting. So yeah.
Is that your bucket list?
Yeah,
Japan,
that's
Jess?
definitely on my bucket list.
Or archery in Scotland.
Yeah, I'm of Scottish heritage, so I definitely want to do that. But I've been to Scotland before when I was a kid. That's the only time I've left the country, and so Japan is kind of on my short list at this point. So,
what about you, Dan?
Yeah, I think my kids would really dig Japan because they're so into all of the Japanese pop culture, anime, and
swords,
gaming, and swords.
It's so hard to choose. I'm looking at a list of all the destinations.
They really go all over the world.
they
If it's
really
somewhere
do.
you could think of that you'd want to go, they probably have a trip.
Yeah, and the river cruises are incredible, especially like that move. It's a moving hotel, and you pass multiple countries.
I can't say
and
enough.
Yeah,
for
and
the
you're
river
right in the
cruising.
middle of cool towns. You're not with an ocean liner. You go to cool places, but you have to dock somewhere where an ocean liner
And
can
when
dock.
When you're sailing, there's stuff to look at all the time. So we sailed, there was one part on the Rhine River sailing where we saw something like 153 castles as we sailed up this one afternoon. Just like you could literally see 2 and 3 castles at the same time. Like, what is going on?
How many did we see that day? Didn't they tell us it was
150 plus?
Yeah, just crazy.
It was nuts. They have one on the Seine I'd really like to do.
Yeah.
Aha.
More on that later.
Yes. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, that was going to be my question: is where are you guys going next?
Well, Key to the World happens to be working right now on an exclusive departure of the Seine River cruise, just for our putting together a group for our guests. So yeah, we'll have more on that soon.
Sometime in 2020, and we would have a special departure group rate.
Rate to special group rate. Yes.
Keep your eyes peeled for that one because that's going to be.
What'd you find so far, Dan? Thailand?
Well, I mean,
Costa Rica?
it should continent by continent. I really want to do the Wyoming trip in North America, or maybe the winter Wyoming trip. Would be
You know what?
pretty-
You and Wyatt, my nephew Wyatt, you're scouts. You would have loved the Arizona and Utah trip.
That one looks amazing. Also,
winter
You
Wyoming.
could climb
that
the
sounds
heck
cool.
out of those red rocks.
yeah. I've seen some pictures from the winter in Wyoming. Yes, we would climb the heck out of some red rocks.
Yeah,
The South
the
American
Wyoming one, you go fly fishing and horseback riding and lots of fun outdoorsy
Grand
stuff.
Tetons and Yellowstone.
We have some videos that a bunch of our different friends and agents have gone on a bunch of these different itineraries, and we have videos of them all that I can put on our Facebook page so people can take a look at those if they would like.
Well, have you picked one yet, Dan? Come on.
How about if you
Like I
choose
said, I
one
gotta
you'd
go-
want to go on with kids and one you'd want to go on with maybe just
Oh,
adults?
yeah. That's a good one.
If I want to take kids.
At all. No kids.
For those listeners that may have kids.
Yeah. I think the Wyoming one would be a lot of fun, at least with my kids. And just adults, any of the ones in South America, I think. They look gorgeous. Maybe the one of the ones that goes to the Galapagos.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
one in
Very
Ecuador,
cool.
the Amazon and Galapagos Islands.
I will say for the departures that are not adult exclusive, Adventures by Disney does an incredible job with the kids. They call the kids junior adventurers, and they really cater to the kids and have special activities just for each age group. The adventure guides on our Rhine River cruise this summer were so good with the kids, and they keep them engaged. And for example, when you go to the Louvre with Adventures by Disney, they have a special tour of the Louvre that's just for the kids. They're doing a scavenger hunt instead of, and actually I wish I could have gone on the scavenger hunt with the kids because we were there in the Louvre in August when it's like
wish I could have found an air
19,000 degrees and yes, it's so hot and everyone is there in the summertime and it was packed and hot and but that's another story altogether.
I like
I
that
think
room
the
where
kids
they
had
had
a
the
lot of
really
fun.
old paintings.
Is that
yeah,
your
that
favorite
one.
room? Especially that one really old painting that every person on the planet wants to see and
Yeah.
all goes to
If you're
stare
just a
at,
group
even
of
though
adults, though, you could almost not see the kids because they do a great job. If they have separate kids' activities and adults' activities, and then free time where you can go off on your own to explore wherever you are.
some of the South America ones look pretty cool. You can do some zip lining over the rainforests.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Let's go wrap it up for our discussion of Adventures by Disney. If you've been inspired to check out some of the itineraries and need some help planning your adventure, head on over to www.keytotheworldtravel.com where we can hook you up with a travel planner that can help you out. Make sure you subscribe to our show so you never miss an episode and tell your friends how much you enjoyed hanging out with us this week. And I think that's going to do it. We'll talk to you real soon. Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
See ya.
Don't eat it, Flows.
Epcot is wonderful.
It's time to close this week's gathering of the Gold Key Adventurers Society. Thank you so much to each and every one of you for tuning in. If you want to become a member of our band of explorers, all you have to do is subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. And while you're there, go ahead and give us a rating and review, won't you? We'll be eternally grateful. It helps other adventurers find us and helps us grow our show. To ask a question or share your travel story, you can reach us by smoke signal, carrier pigeon, or send an email to goldkeyadventurers@gmail.com. And make sure you follow the Gold Key Adventure Society on Facebook and Instagram. A huge thanks to our sponsor, Key to the World Travel. For all your travel planning needs, visit www.keytotheworldtravel.com for a free quote and help planning the trip of a lifetime. Tell them the Gold Key Adventurers sent you. That's www.keytotheworldtravel.com. Key to the World Travel, your key to a magical vacation. Thanks to Outer Vibe for the use of their song Hoka Hey for the intro and outro of our show. Find them on Facebook at The Outer Vibe or check out www.outervibe.com for tour dates, music, merch, and more. We'll see you next week for another meeting of the Gold Key Adventurers Society. And until then, remember, life is short and the world is wide, so go have an adventure.